excellence, the rise of marvelous child international school, nestled in the heart of BOKANKYE-POKUKROM, KUMASI, marvelous child international school has undergone a remarkable transformation since its inception in 2018.
So there's three forms. This form is the slope-intercept form. This is the standard form. And this is the point-slope form. So what we're going to do for each of these examples, maybe not each of them, but some of them, we're going to start with the point-slope form, convert it to the slope-intercept form, and then convert that to the standard form. So you know how to find all three if ever the need arises. So let's say if the slope is 2 and you have the point 1, 3. How would you write the equation of the line that passes through the point 1, 3 and that has a slope of 2? So personally, I think it's easier if you start with the point slope equation. So this is x1 and this is y1. So let's replace y1 with 3, m with 2, and x1 with 1. So this is the answer in point slope form. This is it. It's y minus 3 is equal to 2 times x minus 1. Now, if you want to convert it to the slope-intercept form, distribute the 2. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now let's add whenever you want it in point-slope form. Not point-slope form, but slope-intercept form. If you want it in slope-intercept form, isolate y. So y is equal to 2x plus 1. So this is the answer in slope-intercept form, and this is the answer in point-slope form. Now to convert it to standard form, we simply need to get x and y on the left side of the equation. So let's subtract both sides by 2x. So therefore, the equation in standard form is negative 2x plus y is equal to 1. So now it's in ax plus by equals c form. Now, how can we write the equation of the line if we're given 2 points? Let's say the point 2, 4 and negative 1, 5. How can we write the equation of the line? In this case, we need to find the slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is going to be x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. So it's going to be 5 2 is negative 3. So therefore, the slope is negative 1/3. So now let's write the equation of the line first in point slope form. So y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So y1 is 4. I'm going to use 2, 4. So y1 is 4, m is negative 1/3, and x1 is 2. So this is the answer in point slope form. So now let's convert it to slope-intercept form. Let's distribute the negative 1/3. It's going to be negative 1/3 x, and then negative 1/3 times negative 2. Negative 1 times negative 2 is 2, so it's positive 2/3. Now we need to add 4 to both sides. So it's going to be y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 2 over 3 plus 4. 4 is the same as 4 over 1. To add 2/3 and 4, we need to get common denominators. So let's multiply 4 by 3 over 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. So 2/3 plus 12/3. 2 and 12 is 14. So this is the final answer in slope-intercept form. You can see that the slope is negative 1/3 and the y-intercept is 14 over 3. So now let's put this equation in standard form. So to put it in standard form, the first thing we need to do is get rid of the fractions. So let's multiply both sides by 3. So 3 times y is 3y, and 3 times negative 1/3 x, the 3's cancel, so it's simply negative 1x. And 3 times 14 over 3, the 3's cancel, so you just get 14. So now we need to move the x to the other side. So let's add x to both sides. So the equation in standard form is going to be x plus 3y is equal to 14. So now it's in ax plus by equals c form. Now sometimes you may need to write the equation of the line given another parallel or perpendicular line. So let's say if you want to write the equation of the line that passes through the point 1, 3, and that's parallel to the equation 2x minus 3y minus 5 is equal to 0. How would you do it? Keep in mind, to write the equation of any line, you need the point which we already have and the slope. So we could find a slope using this equation. Since it's parallel, the slopes will be the same. So let's put that equation in slope-intercept form, and the number in front of x in that form will be the slope. So let's solve for y. So starting with this equation, let's subtract both sides by 2x, and let's add 5 at the same time. So on the left side we're going to have negative 3y, and on the right side it's going to be negative 2x plus 5. So now all we need to do is divide by negative 3 to each term. So the 3's are going to cancel on the left side, so therefore y is positive 2 over 3x minus 5/3. So therefore we could see that the slope, which is the number in front of x, is 2/3. So now we can write the equation of the line. Let's write it in slope-intercept form. So instead of using the point slope equation, we're going to use this one directly. So we're going to substitute y for 3. We're going to plug in 2/3 for m and replace x with 1. And let's solve for b. So let's multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of the fraction. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 2/3, the 3's cancel, so you get 2. And don't forget to distribute the 3 to b, so it's 3b. So now let's subtract both sides by 2. So 9 minus 2 is 7. 7 is equal to 3b. So now we could divide both sides by 3 to isolate b. So b is equal to 7 over 3. So now we can write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. All we need to do is replace m and b. So m is 2 over 3 and b is 7 over 3. So this is the equation of the line that is parallel to this line but passes through the point 1, 3. So here's the last question for the day. Once it's in slope-intercept form, we can find its slope, and then we can find the slope of the perpendicular line. So let's solve for y. 7 to the other side. Let's subtract both sides by 3x, and let's add 7 to both sides. So 2y is equal to negative 3x plus 7. And now let's divide each number by 2. So y is equal to negative 3 over 2x plus 7 over 2. So the slope of this line is negative 3 over 2. Therefore, the slope of the perpendicular line is going to be the negative reciprocal of that value. So it's going to be positive 2 over 3. You need to change the negative sign to a positive sign and flip the fraction at the same time. So now that we have the point and the slope, we can write the equation. So let's use the slope-intercept form equation. So let's replace y with 1, m with 2/3, and x with negative 2. Now to get rid of the fraction, let's multiply everything by 3. So 3 times 1, that's 3. 3 times 2/3 times negative 2, the 3's will cancel. And so what we have left over is 2 times negative 2, which is just negative 4. And then 3 times b, which is 3b. So now let's add 4 to both sides. So therefore 7 is equal to 3b. And now let's divide both sides by 3. So b is 7 over 3. So now we can write the equation. So let's plug in the values for m and b. So it's going to be 2 over 3x plus 7 over 3. So this is the equation of the line. In this video, coefficients. 5 plus 4 is 9. So 5x plus 4x is 9x. Now let's say if you have another expression, 3x plus 4y plus 5x plus 8y. You can't add 5x and 8y because they're not like terms. However, you can add 3x and 5x. That's going to equal 8x. And you can also add 4y and 8y. That's going to be 12y. So you can add the coefficients of like terms. Another example, let's say if you have 3 radical 2 plus 5 radical 7 plus 8 radical 2 plus 3 radical 7. These are like terms. Because the radical 2 is the same, you can add the 3 and 5, not the 3 and 5, but the 3 and 8. 3 plus 8 is 11, so it's 11 root 2. Now these two are like terms. You can add the 5 and the 3 to give you 8, so it's 8 root 7. Try this one. 7x plus 4x squared plus 5x plus 9x squared. So we can add the 4x squared and the 9x squared because they're like terms. They both have an x squared. 4 plus 9 is 13x squared. We can add the 7x and the 5x. 7 and 5 is 12. So this is the answer. Try this one. Let's say if you have 9x squared plus 6x plus 5 plus 3x squared minus 5x minus 9. So notice that we can add 9x squared and 3x squared. They're like terms, so that's going to be 12x squared. Now we can also add 6x and 5x. 6x plus negative 5x is the same as 6x minus 5x. 6 minus 5 is 1, so we're just going to get 1x. 5 plus negative 9, 5 minus 9 is negative 4. So the final answer is 12x squared plus x minus 4. Here's another example you can try. 3x squared plus 7x minus 4 minus 8x squared minus 5x plus 7. Now notice that we have a negative sign. We need to distribute the negative sign to the three terms on the right. So for the three numbers on the left, we don't have anything in front of the parentheses. So we could simply open it. We don't need the parentheses on the left side. So it's simply 3x squared plus 7x minus 4. Now you can treat this as a negative 1. So let's distribute the negative sign to everything on the right. So instead of having positive 8x squared, it's going to be negative 8x squared. And instead of having negative 5x, it's going to be positive 5x. And instead of having positive 7, if we distribute the negative sign to it, it's negative 7. And so now let's add like terms. 3x squared plus negative 8x squared. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So it's negative 5x squared. 7x plus 5x. 7 plus 5 is 12. So it's 12x. Negative 4 plus negative 7 is the same as negative 4 minus 7, which is negative 11. And so that's how you can add or subtract polynomials. So what is a polynomial? A polynomial is a function with many terms. A monomial is simply one term. 8x is a monomial. 5x squared, that's a monomial. Or 3x squared y is a monomial. A binomial has two terms, like 5x plus 6, 7x minus 3. Those are binomials. A trinomial has three terms. So x squared plus 6x plus 5 is a trinomial. A polynomial is an expression that has many terms. Now, let's say if we wish to multiply a monomial by a trinomial. To do. So we need to distribute 7x to everything inside. So what's 7x times x squared? So x squared is the same as 1x squared. 7 times 1 is 7. Now what's x times x squared? X is the same as x to the first power times x squared. Whenever you multiply variables, you need to add the exponents. 1 plus 2 is 3. So this is x cubed. X to the first power is simply x. X squared is x times x. Together, you have a total of 3 x's multiplied to each other. That's why it's x cubed. Therefore, 7x times x squared is 7x cubed. Now what is 7x times 2x? 7 times 2 is 14. X times x, or x to the first power times x to the first power. 1 plus 1 is 2, so it's x squared. And then 7x times negative 3 is negative 21x. So that's how you can multiply a monomial by a trinomial. So now it's your turn. Try this. 5x squared times 3x to the fourth power minus 6x cubed plus 5x minus 8. So let's distribute the 5x squared. 5x squared times 3x to the fourth. 5 times 3 is 15. X squared times x to the fourth is x to the sixth. You need to add 2 and 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. So now we need to multiply 5x squared times negative 6x cubed. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. X squared times x cubed, 2 plus 3 is 5. So it's going to be x to the fifth power. And then 5x squared times 5x. 5 times 5 is 25. X squared times x, we have 2 plus 1, which is 3. And so it's simply going to be x cubed. And then 5x squared times negative 8. That's 5 times negative 8 is negative 40, so it's negative 40x squared. So this is the answer to this problem. Now let's multiply a binomial by another binomial. So what's 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 7? So what we need to do here is something called FOIL. We need to FOIL these two expressions. What's 3x times 2x? 3 times 2 is 6, and x times x is x squared. Keep in mind this is x to the first power. 1 plus 1 is 2. So next we need to multiply the 3x by the 7. 3x times 7 is simply 21x. Negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. And negative 4 times 7, that's going to be negative 28. So now we need to combine like terms. The like terms that we have in this expression is 21x and negative 8x. So what's 21 minus 8? 21 minus 8 is positive 13, or positive 13x. So this is the final answer. That's how you can FOIL two binomial expressions. So the answer is 6x squared plus 13x minus 28. Try this example. 2x minus 5 and 4x plus 7. Go ahead and FOIL this expression. So 2x times 4x, that's 8x squared, and 2x times 7 is 14x. Negative 5 and 4x is negative 20x, and negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. So let's add like terms. 14x minus 20x is negative 6x. So this is the final answer to this particular problem. Now what if you see an expression that looks like this? What's 2x minus 3 squared? How would you simplify this expression? So 2x minus 3 squared is the same as 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. So you have to FOIL again. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 3, that's negative 6x. Negative 3 times 2x is also negative 6x. And finally, negative 3 times negative 3, two negatives.
From humble beginnings to a beacon of excellence, the rise of Marvelous Child International School, nestled in the heart of BOKANKYE-POKUKROM, KUMASI, Marvelous Child International School has undergone a remarkable transformation since its inception in 2018. Today, Marvelous Child International School stands as a testament to the power of perseverance, relentless pursuit of education, and academic excellence.
X, and negative 9 times 2x squared, that's negative 18x squared. Negative 9 times negative 3x, that's positive 27x. And we have one more, negative 9 times positive 4, that's negative 36. So now let's add like terms and let's arrange it. So we have 10x cubed. We can combine negative 15 and negative 18. That's negative 33x squared. And we combine these two. 20x plus 27x, that's 47x. And there's nothing to combine the 36 with, so we're just going to leave it as negative 36. So this is the answer to this particular problem. Now let's review some properties of exponents. What's x cubed times x to the fourth power? Whenever you multiply common variables, you need to add the exponents. 3 plus 4 is 7. So this is x to the 7. Now what is x to the 9 divided by x to the 4? Whenever you're dividing, you need to subtract the exponents. 9 minus 4 is 5. Now what about when you raise one exponent to another exponent? What do you need to do? You need to multiply. This is 7 times 6, which is 42. Now let's explain why these rules work the way they do. So let's start with multiplication. We said that x squared times x cubed is x to the fifth power. Keep in mind, x squared is simply x times x. X cubed is x times x times x. There's 3 x's multiplied. So we have a total of 5 x's multiplied. That's why when you multiply common variables, you need to add the exponents. As you can see, we have 5 x's in this expression. Now, why is it that when we raise one exponent to another, we need to multiply instead of add? It's 2 times 3, not 2 plus 3. Why is it x to the 6? X squared to the third power means that we have 3 x squareds. And x squared each is x times x. So we have a total of 6 x variables multiplied to each other. That's why you need to multiply one exponent by the other whenever you raise an exponent by another one. Now what about when dividing? Let's say if we have x to the fifth power divided by x squared. We said it's going to be 5 minus 2, which is 3. So this is x cubed. Another way in which you can see it is that x to the fifth power is equal to x times x times x times x times x. It's 5 x's multiplied to each other. X squared is simply x times x. So you can cancel 2 x's on top and on the bottom, and you're left over with 3 x's, which is therefore x to the third. So it's the same as doing 5 minus 2, which is 3. So now what about this example? Let's say if we have x to the fourth divided by x to the seventh. What is the answer? So 4 minus 7, top minus bottom, is negative 3. And whenever you have a negative exponent, if you move it to the bottom, that is, if you move the variable to the bottom, the negative exponent will become positive. So x to the negative 3 is the same as 1 over x cubed. And typically, in algebra, you want your final answer to contain positive exponents, not negative exponents. So this is the answer. But now let's see if we can understand it. X to the fourth, we know it's x times x times x times x. X to the seventh is x times x times x 7 times. So we can get rid of 4 x variables. Therefore, we have 3 left over on the bottom, and there's no more on top. So 3 x's together is x cubed, and thus we can see why this is the answer. So now let's work on some practice problems. What is 3 x to the fourth y to the fifth multiplied by 5 x to the sixth y to the seventh? So first we need to multiply the 3 and the 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Next, we need to multiply x to the fourth times x to the sixth. That's going to be 4 plus 6, which is 10. And then we need to multiply y to the fifth times y to the seventh. 5 plus 7 is 12. So the answer is 15 x to the 10 y to the 12. Try this example. What is 8x cubed y to the negative 2 multiplied by 7 x to the negative 8 y to the fifth? So first we need to multiply 8 and 7. 8 times 7 is 56. x to the third times x to the negative 8. 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5, so it's x to the negative 5. And then y to the negative 2 times y to the 5. Negative 2 plus 5 have y cubed. Notice that we have a negative exponent, and we need to make it positive. Therefore, we need to move x from the top to the bottom. So the answer is going to be 56y cubed divided by x to the fifth. Now what if we have a problem that looks like this? 24 x to the 7 y to the negative 2 divided by 6 x to the 4 y to the fifth. What's the answer? So we need to divide. Let's divide 24 by 6. 24 divided by 6 is 4. Now what's x to the 7 divided by x to the 4? We need to subtract top minus bottom. 7 minus 4 is 3. After you subtract it, initially it goes on top. Now what about the next one? Y to the negative 2 divided by y to the fifth power. So negative 2 minus 5. To subtract it, you can use the number line. So here's 0, here's negative 2. So you need to go 5 units to the left. Whenever you subtract, move to the left of the number line. If you need to add, move to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. So negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7. And initially it goes on top. So now, to make the negative exponent positive, we need to move the y to the bottom. So the final answer is 4x cubed divided by y to the 7th. Try this one. 32x to the 5th power, y to the negative 3, z to the 4th, divided by 40x to the negative 8, y to the negative 7, z to the negative 8. So we can't divide 32 by 40 nicely. However, notice that 8 can go into 32 and 40. So let's divide the top number and the bottom number by 8. 32 divided by 8 is 4. 40 divided by 8 is 5. So now we could focus on the variables. X to the 5th power divided by x to the negative 8. So 5 minus negative 8. 5 minus negative 8 is the same as 5 plus 8, which is 13. So initially it's going to go on top. So we have x to the 13 on top. Now what's y to the negative 3 divided by y to the negative 7? So what's negative 3 minus negative 7? Negative 3 minus negative 7 is the same as negative 3 plus 7, which is 4. So we have y to the 4th power. Now for the z's, it's going to be 4 minus negative 8, which is the same as 4 plus 8, so that's 12. So this is the answer. We don't have any negative exponents, so we can leave the answer like this. Try this one. 3x cubed raised to the 2nd power. What does it equal? So keep in mind, whenever you raise one exponent to another, you need to multiply. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 2, that's 6. So we have 3 squared x to the 6. 3 squared is the same as 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So the final answer is 9x to the 6. By the way, what is the difference between 5x squared and 5 plus x squared? Are these the same? 5x squared is basically 25x squared. But 5 plus x squared is not 5 squared plus x squared. It doesn't work that way. Instead, you need to FOIL. This is 5 plus x times 5 plus x, which we've covered already. So Notice that the 5 and x are multiplied. Therefore, you could distribute the 2 to the 5 and the x. But here we have a plus sign in between. Whenever you see that, you need to expand it like this and FOIL. So 5 plus x times 5 plus x is going to be different. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times x, that's 5x. X times 5 is also 5x. And finally, x times x is x squared. So this is equal to 25 plus 10x plus x squared. Let's try another example. Try this one. What is 4x squared y to the third raised to the third power? So 4 is the same as 4 to the first power. So let's distribute the 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times 3 is 9. So what's 4 to the third power? 4 to the third power is 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is 64. So this is the answer to that expression. Now what if you get a question that looks like this? Let's say it's 8x squared y to the fifth z to the sixth raised to the 0 power. Anything raised to the 0 power is always 1. It doesn't matter what's inside. Now let's say if you have negative 2 5x y cubed raised to the 0. What's the answer now? So everything inside the parentheses is going to turn into a 1. So only this portion will become a 1. But notice that you have a negative 2 on the outside. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So that's the answer for an expression that looks like that. Now let's say if you get an expression that looks like this. 5x to the negative 2 divided by y to the negative 3 times 8x to the 4 divided by y to the negative 5. What's the answer to this particular problem? Now the first thing I would do is try to get rid of the negative exponents. So x to the negative 2, we can move it to the bottom. It's going to become x squared. Now the y, we can move it to the top. And the same is true for the y to the negative 5. If we move it to the top, it's going to be y to the positive 5. So now let's multiply across. 8 times 5 is 40. And y cubed times y to the fifth, we need to add the exponents. It's going to be y to the 8, since 3 plus 5 is 8. And for the x variables, we need to divide. X to the 4 divided by x squared, that's 4 minus 2, so it's simply 2. So the final answer is 40x squared y to the 8. Let's try this one. 35x to the negative 3 divided by 40x y to the fifth power times 24x squared y squared divided by 42 y to the negative 4. So how can we simplify this expression? What do you think we need to do? Well, what you don't want to do is you don't want to multiply across. If you multiply 35 and 24, you're going to get a large number. And if you multiply 40 and 42, you're going to get a bigger number. And then you have to reduce the fraction. It's a lot of work. Instead, we need to simplify or break down these numbers into smaller numbers. We can break down 35 into 7 and 5. And 40, we can make that 8 times 5. Now, the x to the negative 3, I'm going to move it to the bottom. So I have x times x to the third on the bottom and y to the fifth. 24, I'm going to rewrite that as 8 times 3. And 42 is 7 times 6. But 6, I'm going to write that as 3 times 2. Now, y to the negative 4, I'm going to move it to the top to make it y to the positive 4. So now, let's see what we can cancel. We can cancel an 8. We can get rid of a 3. and we can get rid of
From humble beginnings to a beacon of excellence, the rise of Marvelous Child International School, nestled in the heart of BOKANKYE-POKUKROM, KUMASI, Marvelous Child International School has undergone a remarkable transformation since its inception in 2018. Today, Marvelous Child International School stands as a testament to the power of perseverance, relentless pursuit of education, and academic excellence.
how can we divide these two expressions? There's something called keep, change, flip. You need to keep the first fraction the same way, and then you could change division to multiplication if you flip the second fraction. So now we can solve it the same way as we did in the last example. So let's rewrite 24 as 8 times 3. 27, we can make it 9 times 3. And we can move the x to the negative 2 to the top. 45, let's make it 9 times 5. And 36, we could make that 9 times 4. Or 6 times 6. So let's change 24. Instead of making it 8 times 3, let's make it 6 times 4. And 36 is going to be 6 times 6. And so we have x squared, y to the negative 3. I'm going to move that to the top. So now let's cancel a 6.